I'd like to call this joint meeting of the Finance Committee and the Select Board to order, please. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, ordering suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A and 20, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Select Board will be conducted via remote participation. For this meeting, the members of the public who wish to watch an open session portion of the meeting may do so by viewing on Dalton Community TV, channel 1301, or via the Zoom link on the agenda. No in-person attendance or members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the open session portion of the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite our best efforts, we will put on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or any comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. All right, I'd like to have everybody that possibly could stand for the pledge, and if you have a flag, please salute it. And Mr. Divers, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Brittany, I'm going to have you do the roll call for the Select Board, and then Bill, would you do the roll call for the Finance Committee?
Okay. We have Chair Robert Bishop.
Here.
John Boyle.
Here.
Mark Strout.
Here.
Joseph Diver.
Here.
Dan Esco.
Here.
As well as our new town manager, Thomas Hutchinson.
Here.
Okay, Bill, would you do the honors?
Okay. Mitch Lacker.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Susan Carol Lombardi.
Here.
Mike Drone.
Here.
Karen Schmidt.
Here.
Kara Smith. Jeff Noble.
Here.
I think that's it.
Here.
Okay.
Here.
Sandra Urbano's here also, correct?
What?
Okay, just wanted to make sure everybody's identified for the record. Okay, this is the time the public can address the board. I'm just going to turn my page here. The public may address the board on any item listed on the meeting agenda or any issue or matter of the town. If you intend on addressing the board at the time, we ask you to do the following. Use our Zoom link or dial 684-6111, extension 28. Please identify yourself by name, address, or the company/institution you represent. The public address to the board segment will last no longer than 30 minutes. Please make your comments concise and try not to repeat statements made by others. Please address your comments to the board chair, in this case also the chair of the Finance Committee. Discussion on debate on any issue may not take place at this time. The chair or their designees will answer questions on procedural matters. Please be cordial and respectful of others. If anyone wishes to be recognized when the board discusses an agenda item, please make their request at this time. The board chairs will grant this request. Make comments to the board chairs and be concise. Is there anybody who wants to speak on any items?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think you skipped the minutes.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get back to
And
that.
the reason I bring that up is particular of interest to me. Now, I don't know if you want to go back or what.
Yeah, we'll go back and do that before we start. Okay? The minutes for April 26th. The correction on the agenda says 24th, but it's actually April 26th.
Yeah.
Motion to accept.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something before we get into a motion?
Sure.
if you note in the minutes, where is it? Okay, in the minutes of 3:15, 3:20, 3:29, 4:12, and 4:12. Each one of these minutes have me voting no to approve the minutes as presented, which was not the case, and I have consulted with Whitney about this. I said, I voted yes on every one of those. And then on the appointment down here, the third thing on the minutes, it says, the appointment of the town, assistant town collector, Jay Boyle, no. And I definitely voted yes on that. So I would suggest that these minutes be withdrawn and then resubmitted when they are more accurately presented.
We can do that, John.
Okay.
Okay, let's just table these to next meeting and have these corrections. Give with Brittany and correct them, okay?
Yep.
All
I
right.
did correct them. If you wanted to approve as amended, I can resend them now. But I did correct those because John had emailed me.
We spoke, she agreed with everything I just said, but yeah.
Yeah, if you
the one
want to
we're
approve
voting on
as,
is the one in front of us. That's the problem.
Yeah, we'll save it for next time. We're gonna table this, just a motion to table to next time.
okay, no problem.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, motion to table, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? I roll call
None for
for,
tabling.
okay. Okay, Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Bob, yes. Okay. Okay, here we go. Discussion on the warrant for June 28th special town meeting. Tom, Bill, should we just go right down through each one of them, and anybody that has questions or concerns for Tom or whoever, you want to review each one?
That would be probably a way for us to get started with that. Yeah, I just want to kind of comment just a little bit before we get started. I'm planning just for more for the finance committee than the select board. Tonight, the finance committee will probably not be acting on any motions tonight because I will convene a meeting next Wednesday. It'll be a Zoom meeting just like this one, but we'll convene a meeting next week. The reason we're getting together this evening is that so that we can hear these capital expenditures as one group, and then we can all do our voting and decisions at a different time. So hopefully, the decisions won't be much different than what's going to take place tonight, but it's more so that we save a lot of work and maybe all of us get the same story and be able to ask the same questions at the same time. So that's kind of what we're after this evening.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys joining us, because this is a help to us also, because we may miss something, or you might pick on something to help us out here, so.
Well, it's always good to have the whole team together, and then we can make sure that we're doing a good job for the taxpayers.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Chair, I can put up the list of items that we're discussing, and if anyone wants a particular form to be shared, I can do that too. There's not a lot of information on the forums. I think we'll hear more from the people on the call, but I'd be happy to share the list of items that we'll be discussing if you think that would help.
That'd be most helpful, Tom.
So that should be up now.
Okay, all right. First, we have on the list the Ford F-550, a replacement vehicle for $99,675. Is John on with us tonight?
I believe he is. Last I checked, he was muted.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here, Bob.
Okay, thanks, John. All right. John, you want to go through this, and then if anybody has any questions or anything?
Yeah, sure. It's pretty simple. We're just replacing a late 80s truck we have now that's in tough shape. Pretty much not roadworthy anymore. So we're just looking to replace that, and this is the updated cost for a replacement.
How long will these things last, John?
Well, we like to try to get 20 years out of them.
Okay.
So
I'll note that this is this includes a plow and a sander.
Okay.
John, could you just quickly, it shouldn't take, hopefully it won't take you much, but could you enlighten us as to what we have for a truck fleet at this point? You may not have that in front of you, and I can understand that, but we have a rough idea of what we have for a fleet and what's coming in our direction for replacement?
So all our plow trucks are pretty much up to date now. I think we have one larger 5-ton truck that's older that will need to be replaced probably, in 5 years or so. And then after that, all the trucks will be replaced, I believe. And then the next coming down the road, we're going to be looking for larger equipment. We're going to be looking for a sweeper unless we decide to continue subbing it out, and a new sewer flusher truck, which would probably, nowadays, we should consider looking at a combination flusher vac truck, which those go for about $300,000 to $500,000. So that's going to be the biggest expense down the road that I see, probably within 5 years.
Okay.
How are we doing with our sidewalk cleaning equipment? Is that up to speed? Are we still renting? Where are we at with that?
We're still renting. I thought you and I were going to get together one of these times and discuss, where to go with that. We should probably update and buy something, but for the past few years, getting help has been the issue in the winter. So I don't know. It is something we need to look at. I know there's been more requests to do more sidewalks in town, and if that comes up,
Deanna, but no, I know exactly what they're saying.
then we'll definitely have to get something bigger.
I just the thought process being the trackless product seems to be something that would help us out. We'll talk. I'll get in touch with you sometime soon, and we'll talk about it. See where we can go with it. So we can maybe figure out what our costs are related to sidewalk. I get a lot of requests. A lot of people call me and they ask about sidewalks and how that's going, and I quite frankly I can't give them a good answer. So if I can sit and talk with you, it'd be good.
Yeah, it seems to be the biggest complaint is some people want all the sidewalks in town to be cleared, and right now all we do is a school route that was designated probably 20 years ago, and so yeah, people would like to see more for what they're paying for, and if that's if we're going to add more, then we need to update the equipment.
Yeah.
John, you have the help to do that if we decide to do more sidewalks and stuff?
Not at this time, but we like to hope things are going to get better here.
I hope so. Okay, is there any other questions for John on the highway truck?
Can I just make a technical observation here? This is Jeff Noble. The Form C that I have in front of me lists the department activity as cemetery department on this item.
Yeah, I put that in as cemetery because it is in the in the summer months, spring, summer, it is our cemetery truck as well. I could change it back to highway if it's, if that's.
I guess I didn't know whether, Bill, you could speak to this, whether it affects anything relative to our expenses in the cemetery department at any point in time, or maybe it's just a silly observation that doesn't need to be brought up.
Well, it's not to be honest with you, it's not a silly observation. It's actually a very good observation. As for how much it affects from a budgetary viewpoint, it really doesn't affect anything from a budgetary viewpoint. Only because we run more of a DPW than we do a highway department. Our highway department has a much farther reach than a simple highway department. So so that's kind of where the line kind of grays there, Jeff. Do you follow that?
Yeah, I definitely follow it. I just didn't know whether the Form C is something official that this has any effect on. I don't know. Same thing comes up with the mower. That's listed as a Parks Department.
Yeah, the mower is definitely, that's a skag mower. That's a mower I believe they use they're going to be using for the parks, for the actual like our various parks that we have around town. I believe that one. But that I was just trying to pull in.
So these aren't vehicles. These aren't vehicles or equipment that are assigned to those particular department budgets as we know them in the finance committee. Then I guess.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes. Exactly.
Okay.
Jeff, your questions answered?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, so once we got John on the mic here, let's go to the mower. John, you want to speak to that?
Okay, this mower is just adding to our fleet of mowers. We mow 3 parks, 4 cemeteries, the senior center, and various roadsides. So we just need another mower when we have one breakdown or short. So that's pretty much it for as far as that goes. Pretty self-explanatory, lawn mowing equipment.
What's the life cycle on one of them, John?
I'd like to say 10 years. We have gotten more out of these skags, but they're pretty beat by that point. But that's pretty much what it's been looking at.
You get 10 years out of those things, John? God bless you.
Yeah, we have one right now that's we still have that's 20 years old, but like I said, it's pretty hammered. We let the new kids start off on them.
Absolutely.
A question that kind of comes to mind a little bit with that, John, is you have an $11,000 in your Form C. You have an $11,000 request in the Form C, but yet in our capital expenditure, you're only requesting $9,000. Are you planning on taking those other parts out of your regular budget?
No, actually, I'm sorry. I believe that was my my mistake. This is just a draft. I should make clear. This is a draft of the motions and explanations document, and it is not a final statement. And I had not updated it. I think that was an original estimate when I was just speaking with him, and I apologize for not having updated that.
Okay, so it's actually 11,000, correct?
Yes.
Are they going to?
So I believe the mower was somewhere around 9, and then we added a bagger to it, which added, I think, 2,500. I don't have the exact quotes in front of me, but it did bring it up a little bit, adding the bagger to it.
Yeah, I've got it sitting here on the side screen. Okay. Yeah, that was, we were kind of wondering about that number, that number being there at that level.
So, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So if we increase this to 11, is there going to be any extra monies that need to be added in case there's something that comes up? So is it going to be 12,000 or 13,000? I mean, I know we're just going over this, but when we get the corrected numbers, when we go to review, Bill, are we going to get all the corrected numbers when we go over these?
Oh yeah, I think when we convene as a finance committee, or as a standalone committee, with these numbers, I'm sure Tom will have these numbers after our discussions this evening. Tom will have these numbers all adjusted for us. That's why I kind of wanted to run a meeting, a second meeting for us. It should be a relatively quick meeting, barring any term trucks getting upset during that time. We should go along pretty quickly on this.
Okay, John, I have one question for you. I'm kind of an equipment type of person. How many mowers do we have, and what does that fleet look like?
Right now, we have 4 zero-turn mowers, which are this Skag style. Last year, we bought 2 that weren't Skag brand, and so right now we have 4 of that style mower in our fleet. Adding this one would make it 5, and then we have 1 regular ride-on mower and probably 3 or 4 push mowers.
And where are we going down the road on these Skags? Are we going to need a mower in another 2 years? Where are we, where are we looking at all of that as well down the road?
Yeah, as far as these zero-turn Skag mowers, this will complete our fleet. We won't need another one unless we have a major breakdown. We won't need one for probably 8 years. We're pretty up to date right now.
Okay, that's great.
7 to 8 years, I would say.
All right, great, thank you.
Hey, just real quick, a comment to Tom and John. I don't know, the grasses look good around town. Town hall looks great, John. I don't know who you have doing it, but the grass around town hall looks really good. Just a compliment there.
Yeah, thank you. I think Pat's doing town hall now, and the rest of the guys are doing, and Pat's actually going to start doing a little bit around the senior center as well, coming up in the future.
Okay. Any other questions for John?
We should probably go over the sewer item as well.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, the generator for sewage pumping station. John, you want to speak to that, please?
Yeah, so our North Street sewer pump, there's an emergency generator there that hasn't been working for some time now. Needs to be replaced. In our last DEP inspection, the inspector picked up on it that it was in pretty tough shape. So yeah, we have to replace it. I'm still in the process of getting quotes. This 30,000, and I'm actually glad you're meeting next week, so I'll have a solid number by then. It won't be over 30,000. My first quote came in with just the cost of the generator without installation, and I'm not sure why the salesman didn't include the installation, but the generator itself came in at 18,000 without installation, and that's just one of three quotes I've gotten so far. So it could be 28. I don't see it. I definitely don't see it going over 30, but it could come just under for the generator plus installation.
John, the type of generator that we use up there, are we using a propane or diesel motor on those?
That actually has natural gas piped to it across the street there, so It's a natural gas fired, comes on automatically with a power outage.
I was thinking, the thought being there was the cost of maintenance. If we're still dealing with a diesel generator up there, then I was going to advocate that we take a look at either propane or natural gas. I was going to advocate for that, but I guess I don't have to. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank you.
John, how many of these stations do we have around town?
There's only one like this. We have one, just this one pump station. It pumps all the sewage from that end of town, North Street, Anthony Road, and that's the low spot, and it pumps it up into the system.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for John on this? Okay, thank you, John. All right, next we'll go to the new pickup truck. Is Pat on by any chance?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Pat. You have the spotlight, buddy.
Okay. The new pickup truck is basically needed for, like it says in some of the writing there, is to bring electric equipment back and forth to the CRA, building equipment back and forth to the town buildings, picking up supplies and materials from vendors, hauling the recyclables to the transfer station. It'll be capable of plowing and sanding, and the police will have access to it for emergency use, and some other miscellaneous items that it could be used for. Due to I've been using my personal truck the whole time I've been there.
Oh, wow. That's not good. Okay, any questions for Pat?
Did we get a breakdown on this pickup truck? I'm not sure I saw it. Was that included, Bill?
I just sitting here thinking about that. I was going to ask you, is there going to be a breakdown of options and things like that for us, Pat?
Yeah, I've already got the spec sheet in. I turned it into Tom before he did all this paperwork up for it. So it has everything listed on it. That it's just basic what the truck needs. It's got the emergency lights that it's going to need on it. Like I said, plow and a sander. So it'll be all set up for full use of for anything.
Did that go through the same company that John Ruffley went through? Or did we get 3 quotes on that? Or any quote, and more quotes?
I started just with the one quote, which is MHQ, and then I could work on a couple others, but for the most part, it's through state contracting. MHQ has normally been the lowest, but I plan on getting 2 more just to make sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That reminds me, I was wondering if John had been able to get quotes from others on that highway truck. Because I know MHQ usually is pretty low, but occasionally you'll catch a contractor that's coming on with some lower prices occasionally. So I just want to make sure we're looking around for the other places. Are we done?
Yeah, wait, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, Equipment Service out of Connecticut, I got a price from them. They were over 100,000, and I didn't get a third quote. I can look around. The problem with the trucks we buy, with all the equipment, there's probably 3 main companies that do all the equipment together with the truck package itself, so we don't have to spec out each piece of equipment for the truck. So yeah, that's where we're at with it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's all I was curious about, was if we had taken a look at some other. Sometimes MHQ can end up a little on the high side. Okay, I've seen that occur with them. So we just, as long as we're doing due diligence to make sure it's all riding along good, I'm happy. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Tom with a bit of a clarification. My understanding is that the state contracts may, in some cases, cost some more money, but what they focus on is the best value, which might include something like better warranties. So there are other factors involved other than simply price in the state's contracts. So you won't always get the lowest price, but they focus on what they call best value, which includes the entire purchasing package.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that.
Okay, we all set on those? Okay, Deanna, are you on there, Chief?
I am.
Okay, first we go to your $55,000 replacement cruiser.
So, in fairness, I know Mr. Hutchison said it was an estimate or his first draft, so our total price is about $59,396. So it's a little bit more than that. So what we are asking for, as you know, we have to refurbish our canine cruiser. It is not going to last probably till July, but we're hopeful. And we're going to take one of our current cruisers and refurbish that. And then we have to replace that. So that's what this cruiser is going to do, is replace a current, the cruiser we're going to use for the canine. This car, that new car is going to replace that vehicle.
Okay. Any questions for Deanna on that?
Just a quick one here. So, looks like, Chief, your outline of the options for replacement of cruisers was sort of packaged together here. And it looks like you're referring to replacement of cruiser number 334 for the total amount of $59,396. Is that true?
That is, but it's actually 334. 334 is being traded in. We're going to get $1,000 back for that. It's
Right.
actually going to replace 273. It's just a.
Okay.
They didn't add that in correctly. I mean, it really doesn't matter a whole lot, I suppose. It's numbers one, it's not the right cruiser.
Yeah, not so much. It's just, as I said, the cover memorandum had like an outline of 3 variables it starts out. And you've settled on one particular option here.
Other people settled for me.
Somebody settled.
Somebody settled. It wasn't me. But we'll go with that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the cruiser?
So, I just want to make sure I've got this clear, is that we've got one cruiser going away, and you're gonna move another one up for the canine, and this one's replacing the one that's going away, correct?
Either or, however you want to look at it. It's replacing a patrol car. The canine car is being replaced with a current patrol car.
Okay.
So we have to replace that car. So however you want, it's the same, 334 is being traded in. It's the little sedan out back. It's got over 100,000 miles on it. We don't even use it for patrol at all. So.
Are we anticipating with the canine operation? Are we anticipating any kind of longevity with that, or is it something that's going to be going away? Because I know when the canine unit first came to us, we had a grant for it, and of course, the grant went away, and we've accepted and embraced having the canine unit with us. So it's, do we know about how much longer we'll have it with us, or I don't?
So Canine Max is about 8 years old. We're hoping to get at least 4 more years out of him before he has to retire. He's in good health. He's doing good work. Officer Duryea is very active in training, trains with him every Tuesday, just got recertified with him in the beginning of May, and trains with him just about every night with some of the 3 to 11 officers. He did a canine demo for us on Friday at Craneville. So we absolutely love our canine program, and I am 100% behind that continuing on even after Max retires. There are grants available once you have a dog to replace a dog as well. So hopeful for another 4 years out of him, for now, which will get us a good, use of that refurbished cruiser, because that's got about 34,000 miles on it currently, and that's what's going to be the new canine car.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Okay, Deanna, how about,
Sorry. Chief, I noticed, or I should say either Bill or Tom, you've got 55,000 on there for the number. I take it that's all gonna change, because that's gonna, will that include the same number for the refurbished for the canine car? Are we
I have a
combining,
separate-
are we combining the two of them?
Nope, there's a separate one on the bottom for the canine refurbished.
Okay, okay, thank you.
okay, anyone else? Okay, Deanna, how about your computer server?
So our computer server has to be replaced. Recommended to be replaced every 5 years, and we are on our 5th year. And we've lost one prior, we lost a lot of data, so we really don't want to do that again. So it's recommended on a 5-year replacement cycle, and we are at the end of our 5 years, so.
Okay, any questions on the computer server? Is that the firm price on that, Deanna?
Is it what?
Is that the firm price on that, or is that gonna change?
It's what we got for our prices, like what we priced it out at. And that was back in February, so I don't know how much that will change, if at all.
Deanna, how many servers do you have for the police department?
I believe we just have the one main server, and we have a lot of computers in the building, but we have the big server, and that's what this is.
Do you have off-site backup?
To answer that is Mitch Lacker, who happens to be on this, and he is my computer guy, and he knows far more about this than I do, and I don't want to give the wrong answer. So sorry to put you on the spot, Mitch, but tag, you're it.
Nice. No, that's excellent. Yeah, I mean, the town has three physical servers, one of which is used for the police department, and also on there is a server that is being shared for the collector's office. There's a third server that's dedicated totally to the assessor's office, and another is dedicated to the accounting office. And is there off-site backup on all of those? And the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. It was my main, the off-site backup, because Deanna had mentioned the loss of data, and you know, the likeliness of loss of data with an off-site backup is much lower. So I just want to clarify.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's a good system. It's kind of hybrid. There's a backup that's on-site, and then that on-site backup is transferred off-site every day.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch.
Anything else on the server? Okay, let's go down to the recording equipment and software for $8,400. Chief, you want to speak on that?
Sure. So this is an update. We're getting the phone lines redone, or anticipating anyway. And all of our phone calls here have to be recorded, and we sometimes have to use those for evidence, but it's also for data and when people call, and for court cases, it's used as evidence. So we have to update those recordings. That being said, the communications director, Gabrielle Taglieri, says she will apply for that in their grant, but we will not know that till after July. So we have to at least apply for the financing. And if that is able to be put into the grant, which we believe it is, then we can reallocate that funding back to the town.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that money, for everyone's edification, I'm sure everyone has seen that $8,700 or something like that, possibly coming back. That what would happen is that because we're taking it from capital stabilization, that money would go against a budget or back into the town, and then the town, it'll show up on the other side as free cash. And of course, we allocate free cash to the capital stabilization and general stabilization, sewer stabilization. So it will get back there, but it has to get back there through kind of a roundabout kind of a roundabout route to get back there, but it will get back to capital stabilization. Because it's mainly done, it's going to end up that way because we are using capital stabilization, not borrowing for it. If we were borrowing for it, it'd be a little bit different story. But with the way that we're doing this year through capital stabilization, it's going to work out much better if a grant comes in for that.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, Chief.
I have one quick question. I have been kind of looking at this, and we're talking about a new phone system. And it's newer technology and all that really cool stuff like it's supposed to be. We're spending $12,500 on this system, and we're having a contractor build the system out for us, whomever the contractor is, it is. This system does not have recording capability that meets police standard.
Well, I would say it didn't. You know, I don't know because I don't have the exact plans of how it is being built, but we have to have specific recording. All of our phone lines have to be recorded, and that's part of it. Because again, we need it for evidence. We have to request phone calls. We get public information requests for 911 calls, phone calls. All of our lines we have is documented. So that's.
Well, I get it. I get the idea. I guess what my question is if we're spending this much money on a phone system, why on this phone system why is it we don't have this recording capability on the phone system? We're talking about phone lines and recording on phone lines.
Right.
It seems like we're selling ourselves a little short, considering that a lot of this is going to be done through the computer system.
So again, the phones, we have to request that through E911. So I think that's a separate entity that we have to get that done through. And that's where that's coming from. So it's our phone lines right now, probably 1 out of every 7 to 10 calls when we pick up the phone to call out, people can't hear us. And we have a full dial tone, but they can't hear us. So we're making phone calls and it's like a dead line and we don't even know that. Call it back. So
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. That's kind of my point. You know, if we're gonna go through this trouble of spending the money for the capital, I feel like we're selling ourselves a little short. I guess that what's the select board think? I feel like we're spending this money on a phone system, or even Tom for that matter, for the entire building. The entire building includes the police department. I just feel like we've sold ourselves a little short. I have no problem with putting that $8,400 up with the 12.5 if that's what we have to do. But I just don't understand why we aren't having all of that under one contract, so we can hold that contractor's feet to the fire if they can't manage to come up with what we want. I guess I feel like this is almost a divide and conquer happening here.
So this is a requirement through state 911. So that's why we have to go with that side of it. So I don't know that the phone company we're using has the ability to go with the E911 system that we need. I don't know if that's helpful. It's just a specific 911 system that we have to have to read lines. And it's through 911.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if that's helpful. I know that it's just a different, we have to do it through E911, and that's why we have to have all the lines recorded and they come in and do that.
All right, so it sounds like that relates to our E911 grant that we get each year.
Right, which is what I said, that Gabby's going to put that in her grant, and most likely it'll be funded through the grant. So, right. But we don't know that until July 1st, so we have to ask for the money. So.
Okay, all right. Well, we get the majority of our service or our communications. The majority of our communications is paid for through a grant in the first place. So vast, like $170,000 of the cost or something like that.
Right,
So-
and we have worked with that company and the E911 system for this specific recording part, for that quote. So, and like I said, Gabby is putting that into her grant, but we don't know if we can get that in the grant. We're really certain of it, but just in case, we didn't want to not budget for it or request it.
Bill, this is Pat Pettit. Can I comment on that?
Thank you, Pat.
So on that phone system, it's just not the town hall and the police. It's also the library, the senior center, highway, and cemetery. Because all the phones are intertwined together. After speaking to Sandy, we made sure that we had gotten everything together for the amount of phones that we need. So it includes everything with the town buildings, just not the town hall.
Okay, and then, all right, well, so when it comes to that, do we know for a fact that it's going to be compatible with the chief's equipment?
That I'll have to get back to you on and check, but it should be. This is another one that's through state contracting, so they know what our needs are, but I'll definitely have to double check that and get back to you.
Yeah.
Becky may know the answer to that as well. She's on this. I don't know
So
if you know the answer.
when we called the phone company, we worked with the phone company and 911. The same phone company is going to do all of the phones, including the PD, the town hall, and the other buildings. They will also install the 911 with the 911 state contractors. So it will all work together. We purposely did it this way.
That's what I was after. Thank you very much. It took a little praying, but I got it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, I think we went over everything on this, except for converting the canine capability. Do we need to discuss that? I think we already discussed that, so. Chief, you want to add anything to that?
No, we're just, other than our current 150, which will be junked when it's, and as much of the equipment as we can take from that, which we were able to get quotes from MHQ, that a 2019, up to a 2019 Ford Explorer, that equipment that is currently in that will fit in that 273. That we can salvage, which is what we've that you have in front of you, and we're going to put it into that car.
Cool. Okay, anything else on all these appropriations?
I could add a few words about the other items on the warrant, the other money items on the warrant.
Yes.
We have a very much of a guesstimate of 500,000, which is probably a high number, but we're waiting for a quote for what it would take to get rid of all the asbestos in the attic of the town hall, with the ceiling of the old opera house. That's one item. It's very much a flexible figure. We don't have a quote on that yet, but we hope to have something a good quote by the time town meeting comes along. There's a past bill from a prior year, very small, couple $100, few $100s. And finally, there's a request from the Board of Health for recycling funds because of the situation we're in and needing to work with the city of Pittsfield. I believe Jane Smith is going to speak later about the situation and our hopes for coming up with a better system as time goes on. This will get us into a contract. It's not a great contract, and we probably will want to do something else in the long term, but we need a short-term solution as well, and that $28,000 is what would get us there. So I just wanted to mention those things, and let me see if those are the I just want to scroll down here, but I can't seem to scroll down. That's all right.
Hey, Tom, we got one, Tom, for $25,000 for the upgrades for job descriptions and whatnot?
Oh, yes. That's the other one. Job descriptions have not been updated since, I think, 2001. Many things have changed since then, and we also want to look at our classification schedule and our compensation system. These are, again, old. They've served well, but they need to be looked at again, and some policy decisions either reaffirmed or changed as to how that works. I do intend to apply for a grant for that from the Community Compact Program, but I don't know, again, whether or not we're going to get that grant. It's a much larger grant than the $8,000 grant the police are asking for. So I don't know the likelihood of getting it, but I do know that there are current issues that need to be addressed, and that's an estimate based on some towns that cost $15,000 or $20,000 5 and 10 years ago, of a similar size to Dalton, which means a similar number of employees. So that's my request and why I'm making it.
Hey, Tom, let's go through my notes. Does that fall under a capital or operating expense? I'm trying to think of the definition. I'm not sure what the definition towns use for capital, but
it would not be a capital expense, which is why it's not in Article 3. And it's not really an operating expense because it's not something we do annually.
Okay.
So that would be a grant-funded special project.
So one time. Okay, thank you.
Cameras are purchased.
Tom, I had a question.
Sure.
So, is the 25,000 for technical consulting or consulting to help you with this, or additional labor, or what's the? And just wondering.
Yeah.
What 25,000 goes to.
There are firms that do this professionally.
Okay.
It would be to hire a firm to do it, and they would interview department heads and staff, and it's a fairly detailed process.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom, thank you. If we can revert to the asbestos abatement for just one split second. It's estimated to be 500,000, could be more, could be less. But I believe it's been indicated the expense will be provided for by a bond issue.
Yes.
Okay? Follow-up question. Will we then ask the voters to exempt the bond issue from the tax rate?
That is a decision the select board can make. I did ask the town accountant about that. We have enough financial capability not to do that, and it would add to our fairly healthy excess levy capacity. We could ask for a follow-up vote, which would exempt it from Proposition 2.5. That's ultimately a decision of the select board, and I would change the wording if the select board wanted to do that. I've been going on the advice of the town financial staff so far. But
It's not the select board's decision. It's the select board decision whether to put it on the ballot so the voters can choose whether to exempt it from the tax rate or not.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to speak to that asbestos. Tom showed us that upstairs, and it's coming, actually, you can see right down through some of the ceilings, so that stuff can be airborne right as we speak, and that needs to be done sooner than later.
I was going to ask a similar question. What's the condition?
Not good, Dan.
Is it intact? Do we need to spend $500,000? I guess.
What?
Is Pat still on the call? Is Pat Pettit, are you on the call still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you speak to the condition of the plaster?
Well, the photo booth room has a wooden floor underneath it, and that's the one that's in the worst condition. So that one is as of right now, mostly contained, not 100%, but it is mostly. As for the Opera House itself, there has been a little bit of plaster that has come down in a couple corners. Other than that, the ceiling, for the most part, is intact along with the walls. So what we're told is that when they do get in there to do the work, that's when they would ask everybody to leave so they could clean the ceiling tiles off. But the room that is the worst, the photo room, that one has a wooden floor under it, so nothing is falling through that floor.
And I will add that 500,000 is meant to include the costs of relocation of the second floor staff.
Have you considered the old Berkshire Bank building? I understand that the landlord approached the town about a rental.
Yes, we got a request in to meet them. I sent an email out, and I'm waiting for a reply from the email to when we can meet together and walk through there.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd like the finance committee, if they're still on, to weigh in on the process of borrowing and whether or not you think we want to have a debt. This would actually be a capital exclusion, like a debt exclusion, for the expense.
I was kind of letting everybody get their questions about it answered, Tom and Bob. So that's kind of why I let it all play out. And I was going to go through and explain this. First off, we have room in our Proposition 2.5 levy capacity, or not in our ability to tax proposition at the level of Proposition 2.5 that allows us to. But I haven't found or gotten the information. We have a Proposition 2.5 ceiling that we are approaching. And that's kind of where as a finance committee chair, am a little bit concerned. When we start talking about Proposition 2.5 overrides, what that does is that can lower that ceiling on us. That's kind of what happened with the new school, was the ceiling was fine. Our Proposition 2.5 levy limit was below the ceiling, and we weren't having any real issues with that. But now, the Proposition 2.5 ceiling is actually, I think, I'd have to do a great deal of research, but that Proposition 2.5 ceiling, I think, is actually less than what we could conceivably tax to. So it's not, we have levy capacity, but it's, I guess, the best way to put that. So in my opinion, and Sandy, and if you'd like to chime in, you're certainly welcome to. I think this this thought of a 5-year borrowing is a good one. I did want to ask about, did we entertain a 10-year borrowing versus a 5-year borrowing, only to spread that out over a longer period of time, considering the what we have for interest rates today? Would it behoove us to leave that room, that levy room, for us to go first, instead of a 5-year, go to a 10-year bond on that?
Before Sandy chimes in, I'll just note that the 5-year time period would allow us to do it through State House notes, which is a simpler and less expensive borrowing mechanism. But 10 years is always an option as well. Sandy, I don't know if you want to comment on this. I think you're on mute.
I'm not prepared to comment on 5-year, 10-year. I do know we have room in our 2.5%. We have a lot of room for $500,000 debt. So if you choose to not debt exclude, I do believe we'll be able to take care of that. And remember, as far as what goes on the tax rate, both of them go on the tax rate, debt excluded or not debt excluded. it's the 1-year principal each year that goes on the tax rate. So if we do a 5-year, it would be $100,000 principal plus interest. If we do a 10-year, it would be what, 50,000 plus interest?
Right,
So,
yeah.
And I do, Bill, have not had a chance to look at that levy limit. In fact, that's what I got up to do. I know I have a borrowing book which explains that information to me.
Yeah.
So I want to get my hands on that before I make any comments about that ceiling that you were talking about.
Yeah, I hunted around on the DOR website to see if I could get some information from them, and I was pretty unsuccessful, actually. It was I think, almost to the painful part, so I gave up.
Yeah, I think it has to do, it comes, I think I told you this before, it comes around with the tax rate, setting the tax rate, and I believe it's in the tax rate section, but I haven't had an opportunity to take a look at that yet. I will definitely try to do that, you know, before we have the meeting, let's say.
Yeah.
Could you people give us a recommendation, what you think would be the best way to go? Because that would weigh a lot, in my opinion, on what the board's decision could be.
Sure. I can ask Sandy and Dawn. We should set up a meeting for the first Monday in June to be sure that we get the warrant out in time. We could do it the day after Memorial Day, but probably best to do it the Monday before the next regularly scheduled meeting. And we can go into it deeper then.
Okay.
So when's the next meeting?
It's scheduled for the 14th.
Okay.
So meeting on the 7th, because the 14th does not give us enough time before the special town meeting itself to get it posted. So
will we have enough as a to be prepared as a finance committee to give an informed response?
Jeff, it sounds like Sandy's going to be able to give us enough information for us to talk about it next Wednesday, unless you want to hold off, Sandy, a little bit longer, and we can take care of it then.
But you need to get the warrant. Well, if the articles and motions don't need to be decided upon until before the meeting, you know, a whole week before the meeting.
Well, the article would be written differently if if it was a debt exclusion.
Right.
Yeah, I would, quite frankly, I would advocate that we do not go to a debt exclusion. And I'm just going to say that is the opinion of not only a taxpayer in the town of Dalton, but also the finance committee chair. I'm not going to speak for the rest of the committee on that subject, but I'm right now I'm a little hesitant to dive into debt exclusions at this point. I'm very, very skeptical of the outcome. This is one of those cases where the only reason I thought of pushing it out to 10 years was actually to reduce that, try and reduce that burden on the taxpayer year over year. And the good news is after 5 or 10 years, it ends up going away on the tax rate. So,
Yes, that's true if it is debt excluded. Just to be clear, then it's excluded from the provisions of Proposition 2.5. So if you do not exclude it from those, then that amount gets added to your levy capacity. And I think that was Mr. Boyle's original point was, you know, probably speaking for those on fixed incomes and who are not part of a growing economy at this point, that having it excluded from those provisions is going to help people out down the line.
I'm not following how the debt exclusion makes any difference whether we debt exclude it or we do a capital borrowing. You're borrowing money either with or without Proposition 2.5. The point being was to avoid a Proposition 2.5 override for a debt exclusion. That was my, it strikes me as being the difference between tomatoes and tomatoes. It's going to end up on the tax rate somehow, however it ends up.
Right.
It still ends up on the tax rate.
If it's an override, it stays on the tax rate. If it's a debt exclusion, once the borrowing is over, the tax rate reverts to where it was, or it doesn't rise. Or really, it is the levy ceiling itself that would rise without a debt exclusion, because you're adding to the town's capacity to borrow if you don't exclude it from that provision. If you exclude it from the provision, then that money, that borrowing ceases when it's all paid off. If you don't exclude it, it gets added to the town's capacity, levy capacity.
Yeah, but if we're not, okay, we're not using the levy capacity as it is.
Right.
We're not using the levy capacity as it is. I'm not seeing a difference here.
Well, you had been concerned about the levy ceiling, and this would raise the levy ceiling further if you don't debt exclude it. But since we do have a lot of room there, I have no problem in excluding it, in having a debt exclusion. If we actually had very little room until we hit the ceiling, I would be advocating for an override.
Well, debt exclusion is a temporary override.
Yes.
And you're right. We do have a lot of capacity in our levy limit right now. I'm trying to find the finance sheet so I can tell you exactly how much. Here it is.
I don't have the book in front of me. Last time I looked, it was I think it was 1.2 million, something like that.
Right now, it's without these other the capital projects don't matter. 1,432,000 under the levy limit right now. And that's as of April 5th but the capital projects are being funded somewhere else, so we have a lot of room. It's almost 400,000 more than it was last year. Partly has to do with the fact that we paid off some debt early, and so now that those principals and interests are not in our budgets anymore, so we're in really good shape to not have a debt exclusion.
So we can come up with a background piece and more information for the meeting where the select board would sign the warrant, and have this discussion in a more detailed way, say June 7th, or if that's the date.
Yeah, it should be, Tom. We should do that.
I notice we're going over time here.
Okay. Yeah, let's wrap it up so we can move. I want to thank the Finance Committee for joining us and helping us out. It's really good to talk all these things out. I got a better understanding of everything. And I can't thank you ladies and gentlemen for all your help here.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting us join.
Oh,
Thank you. Appreciate being part of the process. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Just a word to the Finance Committee. Right at this moment, I am planning the possibility of having a meeting. I'll discuss tomorrow with Tom and Sandy the possibility of having. I noticed that Sandy has a reserve, some transfers that are pending. We'll talk to Sandy about that. Find out what the urgency is. I don't know if we want to wait till the select board signs the warrant, or if we want to have our meeting next Wednesday, not this coming, but the Wednesday after, which would be just first. Let me check the date before I go over my big mouth.
The second?
Wednesday.
June 2nd?
Yes, Wednesday, June 2nd. I will set that meeting, once we go off of this one, I will set that meeting for June 2nd. And it'll be at our usual 6 o'clock, if that's okay with the group.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Susan, can you make it? Mitch? Yep. All right, Kara, would you be able to make it? For next Wednesday? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like I won't have a problem getting a quorum. Mike, I'd love to see your smiling face. It'd be a great thing. And I won't call you Jeff, I promise. All right. So it sounds like we will be having a finance committee meeting next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. It will be as it stands right now, it will be a Zoom meeting. And I think it'll be a 100% Zoom meeting at this point. All right?
All right, so you'll get the advertisement posted?
Yes, I'm going to post that in just a few minutes.
Okay.
The Zoom meeting, I just have to wait for Judy to set that up for me, and then I'll be able to get the Zoom links. Plus, I'll get all the transfer requests over to everyone so we can be prepared for the meeting in advance. Sandy, are you anticipating anything else to come before the committee next Wednesday?
Not anything I know about at this point. Doesn't mean it might not, but.
Okay. I'll set, how about you, Tom? Do you anticipate anything?
No.
All right, we will convene at 6 o'clock next Wednesday, and I will have the agenda set up for that and the attachments sent out to everyone. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Finance Committee, for all your support.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Okay. That was helpful. Thank you, Tom. Good idea. Okay. Now we can go to our regular meeting. It's 7:14. And the first item on the agenda is the reorganizing of the select board and summer schedule. I just want to say a couple things before we get to that. I really would like to thank all the voters that re-elected me. I really appreciate it. I am very honored and humbled by it. And also, it's time for me to kind of like move back a half a step or so and have somebody else take the reins. It's been a crazy 2 years. This old boy is pretty beat. So with that, I will open up nominations from the floor for the chair of the select board.
Mr. Bishop, I want to thank you for your service over the last 2 years, your leadership over the last year and a half. You have my immense respect, sir. I appreciate everything you did in leading this town forward over the last year and a half.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Bishop, I'd like to nominate Mr. Diver for chairman of the board.
Okay. Is there any other nominations?
Mr. Mr. Bishop, I'd like to second the motion to nominate Mr. Diver for chair of the select board.
All right. Is there any other nominations? Hearing none? Okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Dan?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bob, yes. Joe, you want to vote for yourself?
I'll abstain, but thank you very much, gentlemen. Looking forward to it. And Bob, I echo Mark's comments about your leadership, and looking forward to continue the great work forward here. So,
Okay, the show is yours now, and you're open for you're open for nominations.
Mr. Diver,
Mr. Strout.
I would like to nominate Mr. Bishop for vice chair, please.
Is there a second? Or any other nominations?
Well, I would second that. But I wanted to see, Mr. Boyle, did you have any interest?
Well, it's fine with Bob.
Okay.
I can do it if you want to, but
And Bob, do you want to be vice chair?
Sure, it's no big deal.
Okay. Well, I will second that nomination for Bob.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Stroh?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop? I mean, yes, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Chairman, it's yours. I'm gonna sit here and listen.
I've been looking forward to this day for a while, huh?
Yes.
Probably getting great work over the last couple of years.
Thank you.
So let's go to number 8, the update from the police department. Chief?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Included in this item was the summer schedule as an item of organization as well. I was wondering if you wanted to take that up.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that, Tom. Yeah, absolutely. What have we historically done during the summer? Was it once a month?
Once a month, but we need to talk about June 7th first. June 7th and June 14th.
And that gives us the dates to get ready for the town meeting on the 28th, so that sounds reasonable for June. Tom, do you think we need to meet twice in June, the 7th and the 14th?
I don't know what kind of business is going to come in. I can't say. I think that traditionally it's been July and August, but
Right.
Yeah.
July and August we had one.
Quick question, why is it the 14th and not the 21st? Do we need more time between that meeting and the special town meeting?
We need to get time to get the warrant out, Dan.
Okay.
Well, the 14th is too late to get the warrant out, which is why we're meeting on the 7th. We could meet twice. I think what Dan might be saying is we could meet the 7th and the 21st.
That's an option.
And then one meeting in July and one meeting in August.
Is there a motion on the dates?
I'll make a motion that we meet June 7th, June 21st, and the second Monday in July and the second Monday in August.
Second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. How's that work, Tom?
Great, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Sandra?
I hate to mention this, but we as part of item number 6, we're supposed to go over transfers, departmental transfers. And I know that the finance committee did not want to approve them tonight, but I would be more than happy if the select board would approve them so that on the 2nd, when the finance committee meets, they'll be able to make their own signature on these forms and we can get these transfers done, because some of them are needing to be done before the 7th.
Yeah, we should go back to that.
You want to go and open up now to the transfers, Sandra?
It doesn't matter when, at this meeting that you do it, as long as we could at least have the select board look at them and either approve or disapprove.
Okay. How about we loop back a little bit later through the agenda?
That's fine.
Okay. All right, moving to number 8 for the police department update. Chief?
Thank you so much for having me do this tonight. I'm pretty happy to do this. I think it's our first time we've ever shared an update. I believe you all should have a first quarter stat sheet emailed to you today, correct?
Yeah, that was sent out from Mr. Hutchinson.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over a couple, then I'll touch upon that. So we have a $40,000 security camera grant. We have the cameras purchased. And we have bids out to electricians, and that's going to put new security cameras around the whole building, the exterior and the interior of the police department, as well as it's going to update our current recording witness and suspect interviews, and that's going to update that equipment. It's getting pretty outdated. So that's all the grant work. I've also been listening to and participating in some Massachusetts Chiefs of Police meetings, and I've got my ear to the ground because it sounds like body cameras are going to be a large part of the police reform. We will at some point be outfitted with body cameras, which I can tell you is pretty popular with our police union and myself. It's a great tool to have. And it sounds like there's going to be a lot of funding for those. And it looks like some standardized policies coming out. Obviously, this is something we have to negotiate with both the union and the town, but I haven't heard anybody against it. So that's probably coming down the road as part of the reform bill. And they're talking about doing centralized storage because the cameras aren't super expensive. It's the storage and how to and also the releasing of it. So there's a lot of information to go along with that. So we're, in the very early stages of that. We have 2 officers reserved in right now. That's Officer Bradley and Ballardini. That's going to start October 25th. And when I've always said to you guys how difficult it is for hiring and how long it takes, that next academy date is October 25th. And I'm hopeful to get a 3rd officer in if we can get some people through the hiring process in time to reserve a seat quickly, because it's all of Western Massachusetts going to one academy, and it's 48 seats. And we, I believe, got seat 1 and 2 because Rebecca is so efficient, and I love her for that. So she did such a good job. I'm going to move to these. Do you have any questions on those? Anything with that? Anybody? Okay, so we're going to look at these quarter 1 stats if you have them. So that top left number, it's a little small under quarter 1 call analysis. You see a little number said 3,283. That number is significant because that is the calls for service the Dalton Police Department has had from January 1st to March 31st. I hope that's very surprising to all of you because that means we're very busy. A lot busier than I think people anticipate. So it breaks it down into what we had for calls. So we had 9 accidental 911 calls, 50. We knock on those doors, make sure those are accidental calls. We had 90 medical emergencies that we responded to. We had 117 assist other agencies. That means backing up other departments, helping out, serving paperwork for other departments, and just assisting. I don't know if I have. Did I lose you guys and my internet's flashing that it's unstable? Am I doing okay here?
We still got you. Yeah.
Okay. Well-being checks, we had 36 well-being checks in that amount of time, 29 motor vehicle crashes, 1,125 building checks. And I'm going to tell you that number is significant because a lot of people probably don't see what our midnight shift is out there doing. But they go through town and they check pretty much every business during the evening hours, check their doors, check their windows, make sure they're secure. If they're not, they call the key holder that we have listed, and if they can secure the building, they do. So that's a great service our midnight shift provides to our businesses, especially in town. We had 55 motor vehicle stops. That's a little lower than usual, but with COVID, we are kind of a little leery on stopping cars unless it was a real issue. So those calls generated 140 police reports. 70 of those were investigations, 25 arrests. Don't be fooled by that number. That's criminal charges and in custody arrests. So some of those, not all of them, were 25 in our custody. It's out of those 29 motor vehicle crashes. Crash reports we do for, accidents with injuries or damage over $1,000, things like that. Restraining orders, we had 6 traffic citations, 15 and parking 2. For the arrests, we had violence arrests, 2 B&E, breaking and entering, 1 theft, 1 disorderly conduct, 1 OUI alcohol, 2 violation of restraining orders, 1 kidnapping, I'll explain in a minute, and 11 motor vehicle offenses. For the investigations breakdown, 20 of them, these were things that didn't necessarily result in criminal charges, just that they were investigated. 20 thefts, 17 motor vehicle offenses, 9 identity frauds, 6 vandalism, 5 assault and battery, 4 breaking and entering, 4 intimidation of a witness, 3 domestic violence, 2 rape, those are sexual assault investigations, which are significant and lengthy, and 2 kidnappings. So the kidnappings, I will say, stemmed from a missing person, and that's what the allegation was initially. So we had to investigate it as such. So we don't have a kidnapper loose in Dalton. Investigation section 12, those are mental, where we take someone into custody and transport them for a mental health evaluation at a medical facility. That being said, we also utilize Pittsfield's mental health clinician that responds here. We actually just nominated him for a big award, which he won. It was a statewide mental health award for collaboration with law enforcement. So fantastic achievement for Mr. Collins in Pittsfield. 251A reports, those are reports to DCF. So any type of suspected child abuse or neglect goes to a 51A. Sudden deaths, that's someone who died with an unattended death that we have to investigate. We also get help with that if needed, if it's anything suspicious, with the Berkshire County Detective Unit. We had 1 missing person and 1 immediate threat. An immediate threat is driving, where we put into the registry of motor vehicles that we feel someone is an immediate threat on the road, and they administrate their license suspended. So there, I just gave you all that. Any questions on those stats? Anything that jumps out to you that you want to talk about?
Thank
A
you.
busy quarter, especially under COVID, you know,
Yeah.
so yes, this awareness of this activity is very significant, very helpful, so thank you for putting that together. Any questions? No?
I'd just like to
Go ahead.
thank the men and women of the Dalton Police Department for their service and dedication. It was a busy quarter, and I'll second Joe's statement that the awareness for townsfolk to be able to see these statistics is important and transparent. Thank you.
Mr. Bishop?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the whole Dalton Police Department and chief for what they're doing. I just am amazed at 3,283, requests. That's amazing for a small town like this, so. And my hat's off to all of them. So thank you, Deanna.
Thank you, guys. This is actually generally our non-busy quarter. The COVID and the winter time, so I anticipate those numbers may go up. It's the norm for us that we see a higher influx in the warmer weather. So just a couple other things I just wanted to update you with. The officers have some in-service training, and I'm just going to implicit bias training, defensive tactics, CPR first responder, domestic terrorism, longevity and law enforcement, and responding to pandemics and similar emergencies. So those are the in-service training dictated to us by the MPTC. All the officers have participated in those trainings as part of their certification for the year. And we are moving to our new firearm, which is the Glock. All officers will be getting certified with those June 12th, 19th, and 26th. We're going to be learning and getting qualified on our new weapon. And you will also see a lot of our officers moving to an outer carrier vest, which is got some equipment up top. It takes some of the weight off the officers' backs and we're transitioning to the outer carrier to try to limit some injuries and overuse injuries to our officers' hips and backs. Oh, and last thing, I promise, I'm trying to go quick here to get you guys going. On Sunday, May 30th at 1 p.m., you're going to see some big action in town. We are conducting a parade. We've invited every police and fire department from the 7 districts of our Central Berkshire School Committee, or school district, and we've invited them all to come participate in a parade to honor our 2021 graduates from Wacona High School. We'll be leaving Nescus Middle School at 1 o'clock and taking a little parade down Main Street and up Housatonic Street. I can tell you I organized this last year, and it was probably one of my favorite things I've ever done, ever. It was so much fun to honor these kids. I'm super excited that my daughter is going to be part of that this year. Parade. So I'm really excited about it. We have such great cooperation with all these police and fire departments that are so good, and can't wait to get down here and honor these kiddos. from all 7 towns. So I'm really excited about that. We'll put that on our Facebook page, but that'll be Sunday at 1 o'clock. So we hope a lot of show some support. It's been a senior year for our seniors. They lost a good portion of their junior year and their sports season, their spring season, and it's been a very limited senior year. Their class trip has been nothing to write home about, to say the least, and it's just been a tough year for them. And the seniors Friday, so we're really excited to congratulate them on Sunday. So I hope to see everybody out waving to them and showing some support.
That's awesome. Absolutely. And then also thank you to the police department for the assistance with our town clerk on the census process too. And so getting that help was greatly appreciated. And then just I'm not sure if the rest of the select board is aware, but Officer Litz actually donated a couple of beautiful flower pots to the entrance of the police department right there in the stairs. So if you haven't seen it, certainly take a moment and take a look. It's absolutely beautiful. So thank you to Officer Litz for that as well.
She's super talented, so your floral needs have been met by Officer Litz. Who knew, right?
Who knew?
It's amazing. I love it. We're very talented, this girl squad we have here. I love it.
Any questions from the board? Chief, was that the rest of the report? Are you all set?
That's it.
All right. Thank you so much. That was very, very helpful.
Thank you, guys.
I'll notice that Chief Strout may want to stay on for the next agenda item.
Yep. Next one is number 9 for the recognition of Mr. Filio by the police department. Chief?
Oh, you're going to give that to me to read. Let's see. Do you want me to, is it okay to just read this, Joe?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So I dated this letter May 19th, 2021. I wrote, Dear Mr. Hutchison, as you know, the Dalton Police Department has been dealing with radio difficulties. While working on solving this problem, I discussed this issue with Dan Filio. Mr. Filio then made some phone calls to Massachusetts Emergency Management, who in turn contacted the Berkshire County Sheriff's Department. The end result is the Sheriff's Department was able to loan us the equipment we needed, and it was installed at no cost by Pittsfield Communications. I wanted to formally thank and recognize Dan Filio. He is always going above and beyond in his efforts to help in any way that he can. I value the experience and knowledge that Dan brings to our community. We are lucky to have a resource like Dan to turn to for information and assistance. So, him enough. He did that without being asked. I kind of was just having a conversation with him about our radio trouble, because he can empathize with me as a chief here and an officer, longtime officer in our department. We got it, took that ball, ran with, been contacted by the Sheriff's Department. And, so it was Dan's efforts without even being asked. Didn't think I was going to probably find out he did these things, but he did, and it's so appreciated. He's just invaluable to us, and I couldn't appreciate him more, for everything he does throughout the whole town, but for us at the police department especially.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Filio. That is great. I really appreciate the hard work there, and just being quiet in the background doing that. That's just wonderful. Wonderful news.
He's the kind of guy he is. He's fantastic.
That's awesome. Any comments from the board at all?
Jan's just a huge asset in that whole role of emergency management and everything. He really is doing a great job.
Any other comments from the board? How about Mr. Filio?
Mr. Beaver, thank you for the opportunity. Chief, thank you very much for the letter. I really appreciate it. You just do what you got to do. Police department means a lot to me. The safety of the officers is paramount. The first step that we need to do, and we needed to get something done. And fortunately, I was able to help in some way. I appreciate the letter and the support. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Thank you. And thank you, Chief, for bringing that forward. Very, very kind, very helpful.
Well deserved.
Any other comments from the board? Ready to move on? All right, Chief, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You too. Moving on to the appointments, Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes, we have 3 appointments that we're asking for. The first are for the DDIC, and they came to us from Mr. Boyle. So I defer to him as to telling us about his new finds, who I gather are are
Yeah, no, this-
pretty good
this
people.
happened, see.
So,
Okay. Wait a minute. Hey. Okay. From Thomas W. Hutchison, date May 24th, 2021, ratification of the appointment as Dalton Development Commission, as a member of the Dalton Development Industrial Commission. I hereby recommend for your ratification the appointment of Anthony Mazzio of 275 Dalton Division Road to the Dalton Development Industrial Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2026.
Great. Do we have a motion?
oh,
I make a motion that we appoint Anthony Mazzio of 275 Dalton Division Road to the Dalton Development Industrial Commission for a term to expire June 30th, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've known Mr. Mazzio for several years. He'll be a huge asset for the DDIC.
Fantastic. Any other comments? Roll call vote, Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes.
and
Thank you, Mr. Mazzio, for your volunteerism to join this committee, and looking forward to working with you. That's great.
And a similar recommendation for Michael Ferry. I'm sorry, Mr. Boyle, I thought you might take a moment to sing his praises. But if you're just looking for the straight recommendation, I can certainly make that for Mr. Ferry as well.
Yeah, that'll be all right. Want me to read it?
If you like, I just
Sure,
thought.
okay. May 24th, ratification as appointment as a Dalton Development Industrial Agreement. This isn't wrong, this is wrong. This is an appointment to the DRA, Dalton Redevelopment Authority.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
I apologize for that.
but can we just call that a typo error and just make the appointment?
Sure.
Okay.
I hope.
Ratification of appointment to Dalton Redevelopment Authority. I hereby recommend for your ratification the appointment of Michael Ferry of 89 Kimberly Road to the Dalton Redevelopment Authority for a term to expire on June 30th, 2026.
Motion?
I make a motion, we appoint Michael Ferry, 89 Kimberly Road, to Dalton Development Industrial, what was that, John?
Dalton Redevelopment Authority.
For a term to expire June 30th, 2026.
Your second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that Mr. Ferry's been with us on the DIC for a long time. He is a retired vice president of banking at Berkshire Bank and Trust. He now has a lot of free time. He's been very, very instrumental in assisting me and Steve Sears with gathering up and making the appropriate applications for financial assistance from state agencies. His insight into the MDC, Massachusetts Development Commission, is invaluable. He has a multitude of contacts down there, and he's really paved the way, so to speak, for Steve Sears over at the stationery factory. So I wholeheartedly endorse his appointment.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Boyle. The motion and a second, and any other discussion? Roll call vote, Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. And again, thank you, Mr. Ferry. Really appreciate your volunteerism to the town. It's been great. And John, thank you for that detail. It's very helpful as well.
Lastly, I would like to bring forward with a recommendation Dan Filio as our representative on the Central Berkshire Regional Emergency Planning Commission. He's served on that before and has indicated his willingness to continue for another term.
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we appoint Dan Filio of the Emergency Response Coordinator for the town of Dalton to serve on the Massachusetts Emergency Response Commission.
So motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion, a second, any discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
A huge yes.
And I'm also a yes, and thank you again, Dan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now moving to number 11, for the new hire for the full-time highway laborer transfer station attendant.
Yes, and you had mentioned you wanted me to share the screen.
Yeah, because there was an issue with that one document, so I don't think board members may not have received that one.
Yes, okay. Let me just get that up. And that is, hang on, it's not coming up in my list of things to share. One moment, please. There it is. This is a new position, though it's currently being filled from someone who started off as a seasonal employee, proved his worth, and is meant to be shared half-time between the highway department and the transfer station. So the transfer station duties would include attending the wood chipper. Apparently that's gotten much more use than it has in the past, and it definitely needs someone there to make sure that residents don't try to run it themselves and keeps it safe and all of that sort of thing. So that would be approximately half-time of the work, especially during the summer, and then also filling in as a laborer when possible and needed for the highway department. So this had been under discussion long before I came on board, and has been moving forward, and I moved the paperwork forward on this, and I believe that I'm sorry, getting used to the scope of my position here, so I'm bringing this to you. I'm not sure whether it's for formal approval or ratification or exactly what motion you might make at this point.
Yeah, I'm not aware, I'm going to defer the other board members, but I'm not aware of us making motions on new hires if it's in the budget and it's on the town manager.
Up to the town manager and the department head, so.
Right, yeah.
Okay, well, in that case, I will, I'm just letting you know, notifying you of this new hire.
That's good.
And, I'm sorry?
And what is the employee's name?
Because you put me on the spot,
Okay. I think John might know it. I think he's still on.
His name, I know his name too.
Oh.
Okay, Sandra, go ahead.
His name is Dominic Orlandi.
Awesome, thank you. And thank you, Dominic, that's great.
Congratulations, Dominic.
Sorry about that, Mr. Hutchinson, I should have had that note, so.
And, yeah, my apologies.
No worries.
And I understand that the Council on Aging has gone out for a reserve van driver as well. This person has not yet been hired, but the idea is to have someone available in case one of their regular van drivers calls out sick or is otherwise unavailable. So they're hiring someone to work very part-time, and So not a major hire, but again, I thought I'd notify you of that position being created.
That's great, thank you. Any discussion or questions at all?
Congratulations.
Yep. Great, thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Next one is the special town meeting warrant.
Is that before the health agent update?
It is, yep. We can switch it if you'd like.
Well, no, actually, I think we're going to just postpone that until, table that until June 7th, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
I think you're correct, yeah. Is there a motion to table?
Motion to table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Table to June 7th. Do we need to do a vote on that, gentlemen? I don't think we do.
You do.
We do? Okay.
Yeah, more discussion vote.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, number 13, the health agent update.
Yes, and I actually have, my phone is going dead and I'm in the waiting room, and I was wondering if someone could please let me in.
Oh, sorry. There we go.
Perfect, thank you. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so good news, right? Our COVID numbers are down. We anticipate being in the gray this year, this week, which is wonderful, which is where we need to be. And of course, the governor has had a big announcement that as of May 29th, a lot of the guidance, actually all the guidance that has kind of been given to a large part will be sunsetted. And so what I've been getting a lot of questions from organizations, restaurants, dance classes, and working with the CRA to find out what this means for their businesses. The Berkshire Regional, no, it wasn't. It was Berkshire County Boards of Health Association is going to be providing us with some signs that will be updated to help businesses kind of relay, if they choose to invite unvaccinated people to continue to wear a mask. It is an advisory, and so some businesses in town have indicated that they are more comfortable having face coverings, and that brings up a good conversation that I've been with Tom, and I know that we have the ability to set this, but between Dr. Doyle, myself, and then the town manager, really is that policy that was adopted back in December. The lines portion of it is no longer relevant, and so I'm not sure what the process is would be to pull that back. And basically, my thought is that at least for now, that just stating that the town will comply with the Commonwealth's guidance, and then there's going to be some interior decisions that will need to be made as far as when we talk about there are several people that work for the town of Dalton that are not vaccinated for various reasons, and so just trying to figure out how to make sure everyone feels safe in the workplace and kind of navigate that process. But I just was wondering, are there any questions or thoughts from the board on that? Okay, great. We're getting the pools up and running, and the CRA has been busy with their plans. For the first time this year, we are going to be having the sports camps comply with the camp regulations. That's a big protective factor for the CRA as well as the town for us to be doing that. I don't have the agenda in front of me. Is the bathroom issue on the agenda today by chance?
The bathroom issue is not, but the expansion of outdoor liquor dining event is.
Oh.
Bathroom issue on the agenda.
There's no bathroom. So at some point, I did want to pass along that I have been receiving complaints about at Chamberlain Field, and the bathrooms were not opened this year. That decision was made after having a lot of unresolved issues last year, and so that is a conversation that Tom and I are going to continue to have. As far as the porta potties, there's a shortage of labor in the porta potty industry. Also, we're having trouble with people tipping over the porta potties. And so I know that you guys are the Parks and Rec. I think that probably for the next meeting, especially if this continues, that there should probably be some discussion around it. I know last year we discussed actually, whether we should reopen the bathrooms, and for those of you that were involved in that saga last summer, we certainly don't want a continuance of that, but on the other hand, having running water for people to wash their hands, as well as having a clean place for people to relieve themselves has public health implications. Is there any questions for anyone for the health department issues?
One thing that we'd like to get your feedback on along the way, maybe our next meeting, is when we should go back to open meetings or on-site meetings, right? And maybe even using senior center, but we can get your feedback on that next meeting, but there's something for the list, you guys, on that.
Okay, we'll definitely need to do that, because we'll definitely need to do that. When the governor's emergency order ends on June 15th, those provisions right now have not been any new provisions to allow us to continue to go full on remote. And so in talking with Tom, with amazing speed, he was able to find a document that talked about that the town of Dalton allows for its members to participate remotely as long as there's a quorum present. And my understanding is that after June 15th, that really is going to be how we're going to operate. I'm also here to talk to you about the implications on liquor license, which I think are later on in the agenda.
Yeah, I think Mr. Hall has his hand raised here for a question. Mr. Hall?
Yeah, sorry I wasn't able to get recognized earlier. I didn't realize the time change. Jane, do you want to just mention about the Orange Van coming on Wednesday to the CRA?
I would love it. The CRA has not been communicating that with me, so I was unaware that they were coming. So I would love to be able to report on that, and
yeah.
I've not been notified of that at all. Would you like to tell people about it?
Yeah, the Orange CHP van is going to be the CRA on Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 12 for walk-in COVID vaccinations. So one of the things that we're moving away from is the large clinics and being able to go visit various towns, but it will be here on Wednesday, from what I understand.
That's great.
Thank you, Richard. That was very helpful. Kind of on that line, there's some other things that we should probably make the town people aware of. Like, for instance, if you know of anyone who died of COVID, there is a death benefit that's being made available, and so we'll be doing some messaging about that because that was already a blow to their families, and so that will help those that were really struggling financially, as well as just people who lost a loved one. So that's certainly something that we'll be getting messages out about as well.
Great. Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
And Jane, on the expansion of the outdoor liquor and for dining and events, we do have that under the same agenda item here, number 13.
Oh, great.
Yep.
So once the governor ends the state of emergency, so that's June 15th, there will be a 60-day grace period. If you'll remember, the town, the Commonwealth allowed for liquor licenses to go outside of their physical footprint, and there was a process for them to do that. I don't believe that anyone's doing that right now, but I think just to get people through the summer, that the board should at least consider extending that benefit to those holders. When they were initially given their license, it was like a November 30th deadline, and we were never aware that that had been continued through the state of emergency, but it had. So let's say everyone that already had the extension, which they went through the process, you know, even if they were able to go through mid-August, who wouldn't be included in that is the VFW and the Legion Hall, for the simple reason that they weren't open, and so they never applied for this extension because they had no need to, because they were completely closed. So I don't entirely know what that process was, if you guys have to approve them or if the town manager can. But you know, I would like to find out what the board would feel about the VFW and the Legion Hall being able to submit a plan not for events, but like for their day-to-day, so to give people the option of eating and drinking outside through this August 15th deadline.
Just open up for this, because I just don't know the process, so I'm asking, do we have to open up have that on the agenda as a licensing board topic, or is it something we can discuss now and decide? I guess I'm turning to the rest of the select board and Mr. Hutchinson.
Seems like a licensing board
issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what if I put, go Bob?
Next agenda, Joe.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so and I'll specifically put licensing board on that for the agenda item.
Yeah, that's we can take care of that, Jane. I made a note, so we'll have it on the agenda for the next meeting for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Jane, is that all for tonight?
That really is all. It's a busy time to be in the public health. So
again, thank you for your leadership and the great work of the committee and everyone engaged and involved. So thank you for navigating us through this whole challenging time. And,
you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Any other questions from the board or comments? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go to number 14, the update on the Citizen Energy Solar Farm. Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes, I spoke with the principal assessor, Jean Boudreau, and got a very in-depth discussion of the history of the property and of the proposal of Citizen Energy. They're proposing anywhere from 2 to 3 megawatts of activity, and that would generate enough money by itself, certainly to pay off the money that's owed by the property owner for taxes and penalties, probably within 10 years of the 20-year expected lifespan. That, together with the lease payment, would presumably bring that number down a lot more. So our feeling was that right now, if the landowner is willing, they could use the money from the solar project to pay off all of their town debts and make a profit for a number of years beyond that. So we don't see why that couldn't be a mutually beneficial arrangement for the town and the owner and Citizen Energy. I have not heard directly from Citizen Energy after the initial communication, but I believe they're in touch with the landowner, and I don't know whether Mr. Diver might have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I've been in touch with him since it was a handoff when Miss Slick left the town, and she handed this project over to myself and Mr. Bishop to kind of follow up on a bit. And we held them off until Mr. Hutchinson joined us and got his feet wet, and then had the chance to evaluate. And it's a property owner in Dalton that owns significant back taxes, penalties, and fees. And I just heard a little bit of the summary of Mr. Hutchinson. So they have, Citizens Energy hasn't reached out to you yet, because I actually kept them in the back corner until you got your evaluation done. And I think the next step would just be, an ask to have Mr. Hutchinson engage with legal counsel to navigate the best deal in the best interest of the town in that whole program. And Citizens Energy is very eager to do this, and the landowner appears to be, per Citizens Energy, I've not talked to the landowners directly, specifically, and it sounds like all the players are interested in moving this forward. But I think that's the ask, Mr. Hutchins, you would have with the board this evening, is to move forward with legal counsel to review the possibilities and then come back with a plan. Right?
Absolutely.
So we get a motion for that.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we let Tom Hutchison work with our town lawyers to get the best deal for the town for the solar array.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? And Mr. Hall, I see your hand there. You weren't here early, but certainly go right ahead, sir. Yeah.
Just a quick question. We're talking about on private land and not on town land.
Correct. Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah. Just one thing, Mr. Chairman. If this project doesn't get the town of Dalton's acceptance, it won't go forward. Is that correct?
I'm not sure of the process, Mr. Bullough. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Plug it. I've been down this road before with the landlord and developments that were proposed in the past. And they owe, at that time, they owed a substantial amount of money. That was 10 years ago, and I'm sure it's a lot more now. They haven't paid any money, any of that back debt in several years, maybe even decades. Now, my thought is, if we engage in this deal, so to speak, that we have negotiated into the contract, that a partial payment originating from the developer be remitted directly to the town of Dalton to reduce their tax burden, instead of being remitted to the owner of the property, who is under no obligation, in spite of the fact everybody says that they're going to pay their past taxes. There's no guarantee of that, and there's past track record doesn't indicate they would probably comply at this point in time. So I think a provision in any contract setting aside a so stipulated amount of money be remitted directly to the town of Dalton in exchange for a reduction in their past tax bill.
I think it's fair, Mr. Hutchinson.
I completely agree.
Okay. So we carry that forward to legal counsel.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that when this contract is negotiated, you're going to have to get the developer, what, Central Energy or something, and the owner of the property to agree to this.
That's right. Citizens Energy and the property owner. Yeah.
Yeah. And I assume that's still Mrs. Warren.
Yes. Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be? We could buy it with that, take it over with that amount of tax burden. Are we free to mention the amount that's on that property right now, or is that kind of confidential?
I think it's public record, but gentlemen.
Yeah, no sense of mention, but it's got to be over 200,000.
It's significant for sure.
Yeah. All right. And I strongly suggest that to safeguard our community, do the best interest of the town, and to get some action on that past due tax bill, that we can include a provision of that nature. In fact, I would like to amend the motion to have that in Mr. Hutchison include that provision in his negotiations, or the lawyer included in their negotiations.
There's a motion for the amendment. Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the amendment?
I'll just say that I totally agree with John, and I think that's reasonable for us to move forward on this, and completely reasonable.
Yep. It can be a negotiated amount. I don't know how much they owe. How long the contract's 20 years, right? As long as we get a fair amount going directly to reduce that tax burden. And certainly Mr. Hutchison and the attorneys can negotiate that. Thank you for considering that.
Great. Let's take a roll call vote on the amended motion. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you all for that great discussion. Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson, for carrying that forward to Town Council. And I will now release Emma from Citizens Entities and say hello to you. So I'm sure she'll be in contact pretty soon. So she's looking forward to it. But I kind of held her off until you were able to do your evaluation. So thank you for that great work.
Thank you.
And then number 15, the One-Stop Community Grant for redeveloping the stationery factory. I believe this is a letter of support.
Yes, you should all have gotten a letter of support. This is a private initiative. Interestingly, the state has lumped together about 10 grant programs, and there are some aspects of it that only municipalities can apply for, but private entities can apply for some of these grants as well for community development. And that's what this is for the stationery factory to move ahead with its application. And again, I think you all have the letter. I hope you've seen it. A simple letter of support for their grant application.
Is there a motion?
I'd rather have somebody else make the motion. I'm going to abstain on this since I'm an employee of the stationery factory.
Someone like to make a motion?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll make a motion that we support this letter for their grant application.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Motion and second. Any discussion? Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
And Mr. Bishop?
Abstain.
And I'm a yes. That's great. Thank you, everybody. Number 16, the vote to proceed with the disposal of View Street property. Mr. Hutchinson?
Again, this precedes my time. I understand there's a small parcel of land which we would be prepared to sell to an abutter. There are, as in most cases, lots of state rules about how to dispose of property. But I'm prepared to follow those rules, and it will involve notifying abutters, and there are different options that we have, including auction, or that's the main one that I know about. But a lot of it depends on the degree of interest and how many people might want that piece of land. I understand one abutter would like it, and it would be nice to get it back into a taxpayer's hands. So depending on if there's much competition for that land, an auction might go up a little bit, or it could be very low.
So we had the town meeting, the town approved to move forward with that, the View Street property item. I think tonight's ask is just to vote to approve Mr. Hutchinson to move forward with that process and then come back with a proposal. Is that correct, sir? Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
No.
Mr. Esco?
Excuse me. I had to let my dog in. You can hear him barking. Sorry.
That's okay.
Please repeat the motion.
So the motion is to approve Mr. Hutchinson to move forward with the negotiations for that View Street property.
Or I think the disposal process, because there are state rules about that.
Yep. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And moving to number 17, options for Juneteenth holiday. Mr. Hutchinson?
Back last year, the state approved a new statewide holiday, and because of that, municipal offices will be closed whenever that holiday is celebrated. This year, June 19th, it is the holiday celebrated by many in the country regarding the last news of the emancipation of slaves after the Civil War. It took several years for the news to reach Texas, and on June 19th, the Emancipation Proclamation was recognized in Texas, and that's the last state at that point to recognize that, and it has been celebrated by many people since then, and the state made it a holiday last year, and so municipal offices will be closed. The issue is whether or not to pay town employees for this holiday, and whether to keep it there or make it a floating holiday. There was a survey in one of the Mass Municipal Association's groups that went out, and there were 73 communities that responded as to what they were doing, and this was not that long ago. This was just back on May 6th, and out of those 73, 33 just said, yeah, we're giving people an extra holiday. 24 were waiting for union negotiations to conclude to see how they were going to handle it, and 16 said either not yet or no. So that's where the other communities in the Commonwealth stand. We are going to be we're going to be participating in union negotiations this year, and I anticipate that this will come up as an issue. The main practical standpoint is that employees would get time and a half for working on the holiday, and departments have not budgeted for that, but it's only one holiday, and I think we would have relatively few employees working on a Saturday, so I don't see that as a particular deal breaker for the town. That's where we stand. My recommendation would be to recognize it. I understand the city of Pittsfield has recognized it, and in order to keep our employment situation competitive, I would recommend that the town also recognize the holiday.
Great, thank you for that background, that detail, Mr. Hutchinson. Is there a motion?
Mr. Denver, I'll make a motion that we move it to a paid holiday for all town employees. It is not a floating holiday, therefore recognizing the importance of that day in itself, and we extend it to all employees.
Okay. So motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion, a second, any discussion? Okay. Roll call vote, Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you very much. I think
One more thing on that, Mr. Denver. I think it's important that people that are unaware of what the significance of that date is, and I know Mr. Hutchinson's pointed it out, but I think it's good to go back and, you know, over the last couple of years, I've heard a few people not even know what the significance of that date was. Go and do your research and look it up. It's an important date. It's important that we as a town recognize it.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
I agree.
Any other discussion, or we're good to move on? And again, thank you, Mr. Sharp, for those comments. That was helpful. Number 18, the vacation payout and carryovers. Mr. Hutchinson.
I have the ability to approve vacation and or payouts up to 2 weeks for employees. As I'm sure you know, this past year was extraordinary, with many employees working longer hours than usual, and it was certainly a stressful time for people. A lot of people were not able to take vacations, and so there was more time accrued than usual. A number of these employees are asking for additional time beyond those 2 weeks that I'm able to grant, and I fully support their getting that time because of the unusual circumstances of the last year, people being unable to travel and also putting in more work. So we have the town collector and highway superintendent asking for 1 additional week beyond those 2 weeks to be carried over. The treasurer asking for 1 week's additional payout and 2 weeks and 6 hours additional carryover for vacation. And the assistant treasurer asking for 10 hours additional carryover. There may be more requests later, but for this meeting, these are the only ones I've received.
Great, thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to grant the vacation carryovers to just what the town manager read over. I can read them all out if you want, but.
We're good. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Stroh?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Moving to number 19, acceptance of the first quarter franchise fee for Dalton Community Cable.
As you know, the selectmen are required to approve grants, gifts, donations, money coming into the town, and this is a normal quarterly activity of the board. I'll mention that it is possible through a bylaw change to simply have town meeting grant the select board to the authority to accept money on behalf of the town. And I'm planning to make that proposal for the next annual town meeting.
A great idea.
Is there a motion?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept a franchise fee of $27,199.65 recently received from Charter Communications for the Dalton Community Cable Association. It's our understanding that this is the fee for January, February, March 2021.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Stroh?
Yes.
And Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes.
Hang on 1 second, Joe.
And Mr. Hutchinson, there's a question in here from Mr. Ruffley on the carryover that we just voted on. Can you say that in the chat?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I had thought that it was the highway superintendent asking for a week to be carried over, and I apologize. He was asking for a week to be paid out. And again, a week, not that much considering everything over the last year.
Okay. Is there a motion to go back and revise that motion?
I'll make a motion, we rescind our original motion paying out the week's vacation, carrying over and change it to paying out Mr. Ruffley for the week's vacation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Time out. Hold on. He's asking for all 3 weeks now.
3 weeks, yes.
Yes, and I am able to approve 2 weeks myself, and I have done that.
Okay, so we're doing pay out on all 3 weeks. Okay. Let me just go back to the roll call vote again. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Stroh?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you, Mr. Ruffley, for catching that. Appreciate it.
And my apologies.
Where are we? Number 20, the town insurance and policy limits. Mr. Hutchinson.
Can I make a question here?
Go ahead,
No.
Sid. Of course, yeah.
I don't think you finished with the motion for the franchise fee.
Oh, thank you for catching that. Yeah, I think we had a motion and a second on that, but I didn't do the roll call. I got stuck in the middle, right?
Right.
Yeah, so we had a motion and a second to accept the franchise fee, so we'll do the roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Stroh?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you for catching the rookie chairman. I appreciate it.
No problem.
We'll get there. Okay, now we're at the town insurance and policy limits. So, Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes, I've been asked to look into this in relation to current legal activity, and was assured that we have sufficient coverage, but that it was too early to talk about what the effects of current legal activity might be. So I think that's the short and sweet version of the report. We have we certainly have sufficient insurance, and I think that was the main question the board wanted answered.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson, for that update. Number 21, the FY 21 bonus for interim manager for extraordinary services. Sandra, thank you. Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes, the chair and the previous chair and vice chair had brought this up, and I concurred that the services of the interim town manager were such over the last year that a bonus was definitely warranted, and the figure that I would recommend would be $5,000.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to give the interim town manager $5,000 for extraordinary services, and she's still helping Tom. She's been there through thick and thin, so she absolutely deserves it.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Well deserved.
Yep, I absolutely agree. And then speaking with Tom, it was certainly the awareness of the additional work you're doing, especially in this transition as well, Sandra. So everything you've done over the last number of months has been extraordinary and fantastic work, and not easy at all. And thank you so much. There's a motion.
Thank you, Sandra.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Stroh?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Absolutely, yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you, Sandra. Well deserved.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You deserve it.
Okay, now we're going to open as a sewer commission. And the first thing on the agenda is abatement of bills for 416 Housatonic Street.
We were requested by a resident to abate bills from, I think it's fiscal year 2017 to the present, because due to a town accident, a property has not had access to sewer services. And after learning those facts and the fact that we had indeed continued to bill the resident for services that we were not providing, I am recommending that we abate the bills for 460 Housatonic Street from fiscal year 17 to the present.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Boyle?
Sewage from the house or effluent wasn't going into the sewer, where was it going?
I believe the property was not being used to the extent that there was any effluent from it. It would have simply it simply would have backed up. Part of the problem is that it goes to a pump that is not owned by the resident, and part of the problem from the resident's point of view is that the pump doesn't work. That property is being sold. We anticipate the pump will start working, and then that resident can, in a civil arrangement, not having to do with the town, work out how that aspect of the problem is going to be solved. However, it's still the town's responsibility to make it possible for those properties to be connected to the sewer system. So the town still bears responsibility for the current situation, which is certainly on track for being fixed, but it has not been fixed, and it has not been working for 4 years, so there was no way for that resident to possibly gain access to sewer services.
This is on Housatonic Street.
Yes.
There's 4 houses on Housatonic Street. This fascinates me. That you say this house was vacant for 4 years and didn't access a sewer or anything else?
The property has not had access to town sewer, along with the property whose pump is failing, but has not been actively used for that period of time either.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak? Quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Ruffley.
Hey, John, it's a certain garage on Housatonic Street that's next to the depot. We can discuss it at another time if you want, but it's not a residence, just so you know. So I think you get the picture now of where it is.
I got it, John. I thought we were talking down across the bridge where there's the 4 houses that are residential houses.
Okay, yeah.
I know what you're talking about now, and I know the history of that issue.
Okay.
The owner of the garage is the one that's asking for a sewer abatement.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've been charging the property without the possibility of service.
Yeah.
And that's been verified?
Yes.
Is there anyone living in the building now?
I'm not in a position to speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson.
We know it, John.
Yeah.
Do we need more information, or do we have enough information to vote on this?
Yes, we do.
I just wanted to clarify, this is for sale of the property, correct, Mr. Hutchison? He's trying to sell the property?
I don't know that. I know that the neighboring property is for sale, and we've only been approached by one person for the abatement of sewer fees.
Another question?
Mr. Esco?
And the reason why they have not had access to town sewer services is because of the town's fault?
Yes, there was a break in the sewer line which has not yet been repaired, but it's on track for getting repaired before we might run into more problems.
A break in the sewer line that the town is responsible for, not the owner of the property?
Yes.
If my notes are correct, we have a motion and a second to accept the recommendation, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
No.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Stroh?
No.
Mr. Bishop?
No.
And I'm going to defer to a no at the moment. We can revisit it. I think we need more information is what I'm hearing from select board members.
Yes. There's a lot more to this story.
Okay.
I'm aware that there's a lot more to this story. I'm not sure that there's much more germane to the petition to abate the sewer fees, which have been charged without the possibility of using the sewer system.
Did the motion fail?
The motion did fail.
Oh, yeah.
Failed. Yeah.
Was I the only yes vote?
I believe so, Mr. Esco.
Well, based on what Mr. Hutchinson has told us, I didn't see any reason to vote no.
There's a lot of history there, Dan.
Well then, please do tell the history, because otherwise I see no reason why everyone would vote no.
We really can't go into details right now in public.
I'll be happy to chat with you about it.
It's a public meeting.
But there's other things pending going on there.
Mr. Chairman, it's been voted on. Can we please move on?
Yep. Move on. And I don't have the history either, Dan, but I would, Mr. Hutchinson, I'm going to loop back with you to learn some more as well. So, and we can potentially revisit down the road or whatever the case might be. But for now, that motion has failed.
Fair enough.
Close the sewer commission and then move in the town manager update. Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes, thank you. I was expecting a vote to close, so here's my update. First,
Sorry, technicality, do we need to vote to close? I believe we do, right? Do we have a motion to close the sewer commission?
So moved.
Now we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Stroh?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you for that, Mr. Hutchinson.
and for my update,
And Sandra? Oh, sorry, Mr. Hutchinson.
oh, sorry.
I was just wondering if we could do those transfers so I could get back to what I gotta do for, Schedule A, tonight.
No, thank you for the reminder. Mitchell, any objection to move to agenda item from number 6 for transfers? Okay, go ahead, Sandra.
So you have the transfers in front of you, I believe, right? Or I sent them to you this afternoon.
I get them up here on my phone.
The first one that we can do is the assessor salaries to assessor expense. If you read the detail there, basically we had already voted to transfer for the RRG assessing service contract, $10,000. Other invoices came along that were not anticipated at the time that I made that transfer request. So I'm now asking for the full amount of the contract, an extra $4,000 that makes the full amount of the assessing service contract available, so that the rest of the budget that was $5,700 left over can be paid out to a vendor that is doing property tax work that the assessor's service contract is not at this point for fiscal year 21. So it's a movement of $4,000 from assessing salaries to
assessing expenses.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we transfer $4,000 from account number 135, accountant salaries, to account number.
This is the 141.
Which one am I looking at? I'm looking at the wrong one. The one I got for 4,000, well, maybe I'm looking at the wrong one.
It's the very first one that came up on the PDF.
Oh, you know why? I'm way down on the last one. Okay, hang on, Sandy, I'm coming. Almost there. Okay. I'll make a motion, we transfer $4,000 from account number 141, assessor's salaries, to the 141 assessor's expense.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Second one is a transfer from vocational education expenses to postage expenses. And this is necessary to help the postage meter that is run low due to all kinds of extra mailing, doing the boating, dog licenses and tags, and unusual amount of extra this year. And the tax collector who's in charge of the postage meter has asked for $3,500 so that she can finish the rest of the year with the postage.
Is there a motion?
Sure. I move we transfer $3,500 from account number 320, vocational education expenses, to account number 158, postage expenses.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Next one, Sandra?
The third one is a request by the communications director transferring from salaries in communications to expenses in communications, $1,500 for course fee for 2 new dispatchers, not covered by the training grant.
Okay, I make a motion, we transfer $1,500 from account number 222, communications salaries, to communications expenses.
The motion is there a second?
Second.
Second.
And discussion? So Sandra, that balance in the 5799 is currently 125,937 after the prior $24,000 transfer, so it's just a manual edit.
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Next one, Sandra.
The next one is a emergency management stipend increase. So the emergency management director has performed many more duties than his stipend represents during the COVID-19 pandemic. And if you just read the little blurb that I put in there about, what his extra duties have been, and this goes along with when we increased his stipend for the fiscal year 22 budget. We had discussed and talked about with both the Select Board and Finance Committee that we would be looking at the possibility of increasing his salaries for his stipend for FY21.
So, he has had, money left in his expenses to cover an extra $3,500 in his salaries so that he could be, compensated for the work that he did this whole year with COVID-19 and grants and coordinating responses, and so forth. So that's what this is for.
Okay, well deserved.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move we take $3,500 from account number 295 emergency management expenses to account number 295 emergency management salaries.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion, second, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Absolutely. Thank you, Sandra. Next one?
Next one is a transfer of $244 to cure a deficit in the snow and ice department. Snow and ice department is the only department that can deficit spend, but we still have to cure it before the end of the year. And normally it's a much larger amount, and it usually comes for free cash, but the balance in the expenditure account can easily take care of this $244 deficit.
Is there a motion?
Yes. I make a motion that we transfer $44 from account number 423 snow and ice expense to account number 423 snow and ice salaries.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Motion, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop? Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
So the next one is a transfer from 914 expenses, which is the health insurance budget. They have a sizable balance left over due to some retirements, due to some personnel that have not been hired yet, but we budgeted for in the health insurance, to take care of some vacation requests for payout in the account 919. So the transfer amount requested is $13,500. And this may be subject to come back before you if this estimate isn't gonna be enough. This is the best information we have right now.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we transfer $13,500 from account number 914 group health insurance expense to 919 employee fringe benefit salaries.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
And lastly, this transfer is for the same type of issue, except that my salaries have enough in it to warrant giving that amount for vacation payout to that 919 department.
Your motion?
Sure. I move we transfer $4,000 from account number 135 account salary to account number 919 fringe benefit salaries.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. I think that was the last one, right, Sandra?
It was the last one, and thank you so much for doing this
makes my accounting job smooth.
Thank you for bringing us back to it. I would have forgotten it completely. So
No
thank
problem.
you. Yep. And now moving on to the town manager update. Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you. First, I'm sad to say that Judy Wagner, the administrative assistant, has notified the town of her impending resignation. Her valuable service to the town and her institutional knowledge will be greatly missed. I hope we can get a successor in quickly so that Judy will be able to orient the new administrative assistant. If you know of anyone who might like to apply, please let them know the position is posted on the town website, or will be soon, together with instructions for applying. As most people have probably heard, the governor intends to lift most remaining COVID-19 restrictions by this Saturday, May 29th. The state of emergency that has been in place since March 10th, 2020 is scheduled to be lifted June 15th. Starting May 29th, the state's requirements will be replaced by an advisory consistent with the recent U.S. Centers for Disease Control guidance that vaccinated people no longer need to wear a mask in most settings. Masks will still be required on transportation, in healthcare settings, schools, and congregate living settings, regardless of vaccination status. And this will not affect our ability to use and apply for CARES funds. The Senate Ways and Means cherry sheets are in. They propose an additional $52,856 in receipts as compared to the governor's budget, and an additional $15,137 in charges, for a net gain of $37,719 from the governor's budget. Now this can be conferenced with the House. If past trends hold, final figures will not be out till after the new fiscal year begins, though the fiscal year 2022 state budget is supposed to be fixed by June 30th. Our health agent reported an outdoor gathering at Dalton Apartments of more than 25 people. The property manager called the Board of Health and the police, upset that current COVID gathering orders were not being followed. Our health agent conferred with two fellow health agents, and considering that this is an outdoor event and given the current low metrics, she did not believe that the situation as described reached the level of a public health emergency that would necessitate her driving in and confronting the party hosts. She did leave a message for the host advising her that the gathering limit for private outdoor gatherings is at 25, and asked the police to let her know if they thought further action by the Board of Health was needed. I received a request for federal earmarks and forwarded it to various department heads, not so much as I expect that they would have projects ready, but as a notice that such requests may come in over time, and they could prepare proposals for later use. I received a complete street inventory and work priority list from the highway superintendent. There are 18 highest priority roads. I've asked the highway superintendent to identify the very highest priority of those with a ballpark cost estimate. The four highest priority roads are Orchard Street at $300,000, Crane Street at $80,000, Chamberlain Avenue at $35,000, and Pleasant Street at $291,000. These total $706,000. As you know, the town gets about $220,000 per year in Chapter 90 money. I don't think I'll mention the 18 highest priority roads unless there's general interest in my going through that list. But you get the sense from the four highest priority that the cost for those is extensive. We will be generating cost estimates for the other roads, and I know that the Finance Committee Chair is anxious to start supplementing Chapter 90 money with a regular town infusion of cash, which I gather was done prior to 2009 and the economic recession caused by the financial collapse at that time. The highway superintendent is participating in the regional bid for line painting this year in the hope of getting a better price. The bids are due to be opened soon, with work beginning soon after the beginning of the new fiscal year on July 1st. In tree news, the Asplin Tree Service is taking down some problematic trees along Route 9 in the near future, along with about 50 other trees as part of an Eversource project. We expect to hear about that at Town Hall, but again, it's not a town project at this point. But there will be a lot of trees being taken down along Route 9 and branches. The building superintendent performed another test for asbestos in the town hall attic due to incomplete information from the last time we tested. The results are in, and we're faced with the most expensive scenario. The plaster in the walls and ceiling of the old opera house do indeed contain asbestos, and in the opinion of the Finance Committee chair, this means the room should be gutted. I have therefore revised the request for borrowing at the special town meeting. We went over that as part of the joint meeting with the Finance Committee. And as the health agent noted, I'm working on a policy for town bathroom facilities at parks that will address past problems, along with her input. There seems to be additional accountability needed from those who agree to maintain them after various events. I hope to bring it to you at your next meeting. There is an excellent memorandum between the town and the CRA, but problems were observed last year that call for clearer understanding. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Any questions from the board? No, hearing none. Thank you, sir. I'd be interested to see that list of streets when you and John are ready for that, as you know, down the road. But that's a great update on those, because I know it's just a constant evolving challenge for all of us. So, but that was a great update. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Call for future agenda items. Anyone?
I'd like to know about something more about the roads that are unaccepted in town. How many do we have, and why are they unaccepted? Because people pay taxes.
Like specific roads in general, Bob, is like Johnson Road and...
There's Johnson Road, and there's is it Richard Street or Georgia? I don't know, the one I was just up on the other day.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get a complete list of private roads. In general, these are roads that are put into by developers, and they have to be accepted by town meeting to become town roads. And of course, that comes with the associated costs of maintaining and keeping them up. And I gather there's a general knowledge of the constraints on the town for maintaining its roads. And as you see, with the four the four roads needing the most work in town, totaling over $700,000 in work, that's a strong financial incentive not to accept more roads. And usually the residents of those roads would petition town meeting to have their road accepted as a public road. So that I think that would be the process, but I'm happy to work on an update with the highway superintendent and bring that forward.
Thank you. Any other future agenda items?
Yeah, I'd like to put the 460 Housatonic Street back on once we have some additional information.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stroh. Any other items, Mr. Esco, Mr. Boyle?
None from me.
No. Mr. Boyle, anything on your list? Good. Were there any items not anticipated in the last 48 hours before the meeting?
I have none.
Okay. Remarks to the select board?
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman. I think I have an early agenda and I'm not sure if it's entirely accurate. Well, I mean, I'm jumping ahead here too, but under the announcement section, which I assume you're gonna read next, I sent, regarding the Memorial Day Parade, I sent, the former chairman a memo after discussing this issue with the commander of the American Legion. And, I have some additional information about the parade and what the Legion has planned for Memorial Day.
Would you like to take a moment and go right through those details, Mr. Boyle?
Okay, I can do it right now. Okay. Obviously, the parade is canceled, the circus is canceled, the carnival is canceled, and the Legion at one time was considering a ceremony of some type in their parking lot with social distancing, et cetera, but that didn't work out either, so that's not gonna happen. What is gonna happen, on Memorial Day, May 31st, at 10 a.m. in the Main Street Cemetery, and pardon me if I get this wrong, at the mound of the dead, where we traditionally have the ceremony, Commander Robert Dassett and a few Legionnaires are going to be there and conduct an informal ceremony which will consist of a reading of the fallen veterans from Dalton during several wars. And also they will have a rifle bout. And again, this is informal, it's not a formal thing, but the general public is invited to stroll down to the cemetery on Memorial Day and view the impromptu ceremony by the Legionnaires. They come from the commander of the American Legion, Robert Dassett.
That's great, thank you for that. Would you happen to have that in an email that maybe Mark and I and others who use social media can share with?
Things get mixed up. I thought I sent it to Bob.
You did, and I sent it, Tom and I got it. I don't know why I wasn't on the announcements, but
That's okay, Keith. If you have it,
I'll forward it to you, John.
forward it to Joe.
I'll do it right now.
That'd be great,
And
thanks, Bob.
Joe can pass it on to Mark or whatever.
Yep, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then the only other remark, just going back again, Bob, thank you for your chairmanship over the last, year and a half or however long it's been, and thank you to the board for your confidence in nominating me as chair and carrying the ball forward. So open dialogue and things that need to be, if I need to do things differently, just let me know. If there's no additional remarks to the select board, just move to the announcements. I saw Sandy just pop on. Was there something else you wanted to share?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for your recognition of me. I really appreciate the fact that you have done that. Thank you.
You learned it, Cindy.
Yeah, very well deserved, Andy. Sandy, sorry, Andy. I don't know where that came from. There were so many days I walked into that town hall Saturdays or Sundays, and you were there. Or late nights, you were there. So a lot of work went into it. You balanced both roles, so they're definitely well deserved. So
thank you so much.
Yeah. And Dan just popped on. Dan, are you good? Okay, all right.
No. I'll thank you also for the getting the paperwork done for the Central Berkshire Regional Planning, the REPC. Very important we get that done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. So for the announcements, bear with me in my Boston accent, everybody. So the town hall is open and effective Monday, 5/24. The town of Dalton Senior Center will reopen the town hall to the public. Kind of worded strange. Please see town of Dalton website for departmental information. Memorial Day Parade is canceled, but as you just heard from Mr. Boyd, there are plans. And we'll send that out through some social media posts and try and get it posted to our website as well. Open meeting law ruling, again, the Division of Open Government recently issued a determination that it is a violation of open meeting law for the chair of a public body to fail at the start of a meeting to identify the name of members of a board who are attending remotely. See the decision of Open Meeting Law 2020-138. The OML regulations state at the start of the meeting, the chair shall announce the name of any member who will be participating remotely. This information shall be recorded in the meeting minutes. 940 CRM 29.10, 7B, and failure to announce the name of any member participating remotely is a violation of that law. New hours for the compost and brush area, Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 2 to 5, and Friday and Saturdays from 8 to 3. Messages from the police department. The police department is now open to the public. The Dalton Police Department lobby is now open to the public. Please feel free to stop in and see an officer. Social distancing and masks are required, and only 2 people allowed in the lobby at a time. Processing of a firearm permit. Firearm permits are processed between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. by appointment only. Please call 413-684-0300 to schedule your appointment. No walk-ins are being accepted this time. A check or money order of $100 may payable to the town of Dalton. Renewals over the age of 70 are free. Dalton Library is now open 12 to 5 on Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Is now open 12 to 5 on Monday, Thursday, and Friday, 10 to 5. On Tuesday, and 12 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Anyone in the high-risk population may schedule a time in the a.m. to come in by themselves with no questions asked. Lobby pickup continues for anyone who would rather not enter the building. Call 684-6112 for more information. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go, Mr. Boyle.
Yeah, can I just direct a inquiry to the town manager? Tom, remember this morning, I can't be specific, we were talking about scheduling a recognition event for the 14th, and you told me it was going to be the 14th of June? Because we're not having a meeting on the 14th, am I to assume, and can I tell the participants that it will be forwarded at the senior center on the 21st? That's a two-part question. Is the meeting going to be at the senior center? And is the event going to be that night?
I think the next meeting is going to be on June 7th, and that will still be on Zoom, because we can, unless...
Well, we'd rather...
And then...
We'd much rather do it at an in-person meeting.
Yeah, and so the next one would be the 21st.
Okay.
And we can move the recognition to the 21st, certainly, and we plan to have that at the Council on Aging.
Okay, I'll tell them. Thank you.
With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Hello.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Esco?
Yes.
Mr. Strout?
Yes.
And Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Dalton, good night. Thank you, everybody.